All right, welcome back. As you can see, Chris is sharing his screen right here. We're going to cover quickly how to properly provide a home valuation. So this is going to work into the process of going to that seller consultation and then obtaining the proper list price for them. Although home valuation and list price are different, we're going to talk about both here. I'm now going to turn it over to Chris, and he's going to walk through what's on his screen and how to provide a comparative market analysis, which will work into the home valuation. So Chris,
Yeah, is a great point. So value is determined by two things. It's determined by what other buyers are paying for a property just like this one, which is what we have here, and we're going to find out what other buyers are spending, right? And then it's determined by the demand of that property that weekend, and obviously the supply on the market that's active on the market when you're going to list. So let's just get right into what other buyers are paying for houses just like this one. So the property I have here, and this property is already listed, but it's just a good example and a visual. Let's say it wasn't listed, but we have all the data here. So this property right here is a 4-bedroom. It's a 4-bedroom, 3.5 bath, brand new construction property with deeded parking. It's a bi-level first floor basement condo unit. Okay. You have to take in all of that data and understand what this product is and compare it to similar products that are just like this. Okay. So I know my criteria. I know I have 2,900 square feet. I know about half of that is the basement level, which is valued differently whether than it was if it was a penthouse unit with 2 levels on a 3rd and 4th floor, right? So you have to take all that in consideration. So a quick way I do this, right, is I'll know my stats. I'll put my criteria up here. I put a 2+ bedroom, but I have a square footage of 1,500 to 3,000. The reason I did that, I went on the low end of 1,500 and not closer to 2,900, which the place we're going to be selling is because of that finished basement. If it was all above ground, I would have a criteria of 2,400 to 3,200 maybe, right? So you're setting your criteria here. I have a price range I already put in. This helps limit the amount of properties I see, right? So I know the value is around 1.3 to 1.5. So that's why I just put in a more criteria, so it limits the properties I see. I'm looking for active properties and also sold properties within the last 6 months. Okay, when appraiser goes to appraise a property, they look at the most recent comps because that shows you what is happening in the market now. Okay. Now, luckily with this one, we have a lot of comps, and we're just going to go right into them. I've already looked at these, so it'll be a little quicker now. So this property, it's a little bit smaller, but it's also 4-bed, 2-bath, and it's a first floor basement, new construction, just like the home we're looking at. So this is an excellent comp. Okay, they listed it at 1.48. They ended up on a sales price of 1.4. Okay, then I'll look at the pictures. I'll look at the condition. Really nice, brand new, just like the property we're looking at. We don't have to make any adjustments based off of condition because they're both really high-end grade. Now, what I do notice about this property versus the property I'm going to be selling is, although it's a first floor basement, which is great, the windows are almost full size. My property that I'm listing has, it does have windows, but they're basement sized windows. So that plays a part in value. So I would value this property more than the property I'm listing for that reason. Okay. Really nice back deck and a backyard. The property that we're going to be selling has the same exact, very similar backyard, fenced in yard deck. Actually, ours is a little bit nicer because it's south facing. This one's north facing. So ours is going to get sun all day. Just another thing to consider. Okay. This one, what else to look at? that we're looking in South Boston, so parking is a really big deal, right? This one does not have any deeded or garage parking spaces. The one that I'm selling has one spot. How much? So we need to make an adjustment for that. How do you figure that out? I already know parking spot in South Boston sells for about $60,000. So I'll make the adjustment right there and say, okay, this one sold for 1.4. The parking spot's worth 60,000. You make the adjustment there, right? This one has a nicer basement. And so you go through and make the adjustments. And I've actually come to the conclusion that these properties are very similar. They both have pros and cons. And I would actually do initial value of 1.4 on the list price. Okay. Then I'll go look again for other properties. It's hard. A first floor basement is kind of difficult to find because it's relatively unique, especially at this price point. But that one was the best one will find. There's other things other properties like this one over here. This is a little bit different, but it's a bi-level, brand new first penthouse. So it's second and the third floor. So looking through here, obviously beautiful, similar to the property we are selling. It actually has very similar built-ins, similar finishes. So the quality is the same. Bedrooms are similar, except it's a first floor penthouse, and I'll just run through these. And it has a roof deck, which is really nice with the view of the city. The house we're selling has a private backyard, which is relatively equal. Okay. Other things to note, does it have parking? Sure, it has one garage parking space. Ours has a deeded outdoor parking space. So I'll make that adjustment. That garage space is going to sell for a little bit more, obviously, than a deeded space outside. So you see the price at 1.45. I would, again, that works to the other property. This one I would say is nicer than the property we're looking at. So that 1.4 million range looks actually pretty accurate. Okay. So once you have done your research on comps, you can even put it in a spreadsheet. And this is just a spreadsheet of a comparative market analysis. You'll have your subject property here, and then you'll have purchase prices. Obviously, this is just a different property, but this just shows you how to fill this out. You'll have purchase property, square footage, dollars per square foot, beds, bath, lot, parking, days to offer, how fast is this stuff coming off the market is important, the sold date, and then I put comments in here on how to compare the property, right? And then this is really nice to look at, where you can present to your seller and say, here's the market, here's what these other properties are doing, and this is why I think your property is worth between 1.35 and 1.4 million.
That's a great recap. A few things I just wanted to highlight there. It's so important to input as much criteria as possible right off the bat, because you can always back off that. So like you were saying, Chris, input what you can. And if you don't have enough properties that show up, then you can expand your search a little bit. So maybe you go from 6 months to 9 months off the market. Maybe you go from 6 to 12. Maybe you drop the price a little bit, or get a little looser with the amount of bedrooms, because the wider your criteria, the more you have to make adjustments. So if you're now comparing a 2-bedroom to a 4-bedroom, you now have to make 2 adjustments for 2 separate living spaces within that place. So narrow it in, and then you can always expand a little to get the appropriate amount of comps. And so you talked about in the beginning, this is a good way to find home value, but demand is also important, which you talked about on the last piece there when you were showing us the spreadsheet. Why will demand factor into what you actually consider to be the appropriate home value, and then what you list the property at?
Yeah, it's a great point. So we want to know how many buyers are looking at the property, the demand, and what our competition is, right? When we decide on the list price, because the demand, obviously supply and demand, that affects sale price in all walks of life, but especially in real estate, right? So demand, so we can look right now at active properties in the spreadsheet, and see what our comparables are. So we have this property, a 2-bed, 2.5 bath, listed for 4.7 on the market for 84 days. This looks like a really nice place, right? Why isn't it selling? It's just overpriced. Okay. And there might be some other issues, but typically it's just overpriced. That's really the only issue. So if we know our competition and we know our clients' goals on how fast they want to sell the property, then we can determine the best list price for their goals. So for this specific client, right, we ended up listing at 3.4. We said, okay, what's the demand for this specific property? Okay, it's pretty high, but we're still in the winter markets. There's not as many buyers as we would like. So maybe I would have changed the list price. This is a little bit this specific one is a little bit different because it's under construction, so you handle that differently. But yeah, it's very important to know the demand. So when you go and say, hey, the value is anywhere between 1.3 and 1.4 million, you decide on the list price based off of demand and your client's goals.
Definitely. And it's ultimately the client's decision. You can let them know that based on that range, they can meet their end goal a variety of different ways. And you give them the pros and the cons of listing at each of those prices, and then you let them choose, right? It's ultimately their decision. You're there to advise them on what some of those risks are and how to achieve what they want to achieve on the back end of the sale. One other thing to note here too, you're using the Massachusetts Property Information Network, MLS feature. This, if you want to do it all online, I think it's great using that spreadsheet that you brought up because you're really able to customize those ads. And so if you want to make an addition or remove something from a property to really get a good comp, but you can also use a cloud CMA, what's called a cloud CMA feature. You see it on the top tab there of MLS. You can use that and make the adjustments all in the MLS system, and then it will generate a nice clean report that you can provide to your seller, and then you can walk them through that. So there's multiple ways to attack it. You can use a customized Excel sheet. You can do it all through the cloud CMA tool. Both are really good options. It's just preference on how you like to do those additions and subtractions from home values.
Yep, really good stuff. And just a quick note, you can see this place listed and sold for 1.4. It was on the market for 67 days. This place is on the market for 62, and it's about to go under agreement. So again, it's really important to look at days on market and your competition.
Awesome. That was a great recap on home valuation and how that's different than list price. So thanks again, Chris. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Bye now.